Thanks for joining me for part 2 of this video. And if you're going to watch it, you're going to learn a lot, because I learned some. Let's just start at the top to make things easy. By the way, everything was recorded with a Joco Cello audio interface, with the exception of this first track was recorded with a Soundcraft mixing board going into the line input of the cello. So just to start off with, I typically will high pass any vocal mic. This is the lead vocal track, by the way. And this singer was singing very close to the microphone, and I definitely needed to cut down in the 250 to 300 kilohertz area just to get rid of the mud from her voice. And then on top of that, we had a cut around 12 kilohertz, 10 kilohertz, because she just has a voice like that. You know, the microphone, the preamp, whatever was causing the issues in that range, it needed a good cut. And then we also have the White 2A, which is an LA2A emulation. I will actually play this for you so you can see it in action. I don't know if I'm using a ton of compression, but some people might think that. Oh, by the way, I meant to make a joke at the beginning of this. So if you guys are wondering, what are you recording at hot levels now, Adam? No, I'm just zoomed in. Now I'm zoomed all the way out. That's my recording levels. But it's just easier to see the waveforms when they are zoomed in horizontally. Okay, so watch the 2A gain reduction.
Down, but there was then and this is now. Now look at me. This is the part of me that you never go.
Alright, and then we have a tape plugin, VTM from Slate. You guys can see how I gain stage this one too.
Now look at me. This is the part of me that you're never gonna ever take away from me. No, this is.
So I really don't like pushing tape plugins, at least not on vocals. And then finally we got a de-esser, because she definitely needed it on her vocal.
This is the part of me that you're never gonna ever take away from me. No, this is the part.
Take note, I do like using the look ahead feature along with oversampling. I do think oversampling adds some slight muddiness to the way it sounds. However, I like that in a way. I think it kind of smooths it out, even though it does change the original tone of the track. And then finally, I have a basically a console emulation plugin, and I could either use something from Acoustical Audio if I had it, or I could use this. And I still like using Slate VCC. It's a really subtle effect, but I think it does cumulatively over various tracks add up to a slightly bigger sound and mixes better. And by mix better, I mean the track separates slightly. And on to the background vocals. I have Acoustical Audio Magenta. Did I really need to use this plugin? Not really, but I do tend to use Magenta on vocals. It's one of my favorite spots to use it in, because my other Acoustical Audio plugins I don't like on vocals because they're too edgy. And then we also have a 1176 blackface emulation from Slate Digital. I'll show you the gain staging on this one too. You'll see I'm not really pushing the vocal too much.
This is the part of me that you're never gonna ever take away from me. No, throw your sticks and stones, throw your bombs, your blows, but you're not gonna break 'em.
And everything is not set with meters. It's just set with, well, first of all, I do like to have a slow attack and a fast release for vocals, but then, you know, the input and output, which by the way, I do hold shift, which allows this to change at the same time the in and out are changing. And of course, noise reduction's on. Well, why would I want to add noise to, you know, something like this? Anyway, I then have the LA2A emulation, which I'll show you the gain reduction on that as well.
The part of me that you're never gonna ever take away from me. No, this is the part of me.
And then I basically gain stage it the same as the lead vocals.
Part of me take away from me.
Take note of these settings as well. I typically will use the half-inch tape machine, but in this case, with vocals, I wanted to use the half-inch. Typically, I'll use the 2-inch 16-track tape machine emulation. However, on this one, I prefer to use the half-inch tape machine, but still set to 15 inches per second, and on the vintage tape emulation, FG456. I think that adds a little bit of warmth, and it smooths out the top end of the vocals better than FG9 does. FG9 I'll typically use on, if I use it on anything, bass guitar tracks, or something where I want to maintain clarity, transparency. Okay, and then of course I have a de-esser. I love Pro DS. I haven't really tried Waves out, even though I downloaded it. I have it. I'm so used to using FabFilter. It's like, well, it works. So maybe one day I'll try the Waves one. This was an expensive plugin. I don't want to just toss it to the side, Anyway, to wrap up this track, VCC once again, and this vocal I actually used the SSL-E emulation. On this one, I believe I used Neve, yeah. Because this vocal was she just has a harsher voice than this singer does. Okay, now I had both vocal tracks going to this one send. I did have reverb at first, but then I got rid of it. So I had two sends going on. Now this time I just have one, and it has my newest plugin purchase, which is Soundtoys Microshift. And I have it on the Type 1 or Style 1 and completely wet. And then I also have it set to loose. So actually it was the double preset, I believe. I don't know if I tweaked it or not. I may have tweaked it off of this, but that's about it. And then finally for that, just to simulate bringing it back into a recording console or a mixing console, I have it set to the SSL-E setting on Slate VCC. Acoustic guitar. Now here's where things get interesting. So I'll solo this so you can hear it without any plugins on. If you're wondering what's up with that edit, yeah, there was one note that was hit wrong. So I fixed it. It sounds better because the intro of the song has just the guitar. The capture of this was actually really good. I used the SE Electronics SE7 microphone, which I have on loan right now for an upcoming review. And I think it did a pretty darn good job, especially for the price. I don't have any problems with it. This is what the guitar sounded like in person, so. But it needed some work, so Navy, which is like a Neve 1081 emulation. I didn't use the preamp on this. Well, I'm not going to change it now. But anyway, I basically just cut a little bit of the mids, and I high shelf boosted it a little bit as well. And then this is an LA3A emulation, which is kind of along the same lines as an 1176 Blackface, but it's just easier to use. I like it a lot on acoustic guitar, and you guys can see, well, yeah, it's back on. So I will show you the gain staging for this. It just keeps the levels in check. Gives it a little bit of grunge too. And then I also have this, which is another newer plugin I got. I've had IRL for the longest time, and IR1 was on sale, so I picked it up. And I'm using one of the studio presets. This is Waves Convolution Reverb plugin, which is actually very old, but it still sounds fantastic. And, why not use it, right? So that's the reverb. I'll turn the reverb off so you can just hear the EQ and the compressor. So close miking an instrument, You don't really hear a lot of natural room reverb. And oh yes, by the way, I did track all these instruments and vocals at the same time. As you can hear in the background, the lead singer is singing. So mic bleed, not a really big concern on this one because we didn't record any drums. But yeah, just that little bit of reverb. Okay, I'm not going to say a little bit of reverb, but that reverb adds that three-dimensional quality, which otherwise you wouldn't have. And then finally, SSLE, just like most of the other tracks. And finally, we're going to get to the bass guitar as far as plugins are concerned. And we start off with a instrument input that sounds quite good. That's the direct in on the Joco cello, the instrument input, which has 1 million ohm impedance or something like that. Yeah, so this is the first time I've used something that had that little impedance. And yeah, I was actually told by somebody that basically the 1 million ohm mark is what you want to aim for with any direct input. And I mean, look, I'm not going to say the Radial J48 or even the instrument input on the Audien ID14 are bad, but I do think that this just sounds a little bit more realistic along with Cerberus. So I will go one by one with this one. I'll tell you, the one thing that bothers me about Cerberus, you see the high Q setting? Anytime you change the preset, or it's like that disappears. I don't know if it's a bug but I don't like it. I would rather the high Q, the high quality, be default. All right, then we have, once again, I love LA3A compressors. And I wish I had a real one, but anyway, Black Rooster Audio's emulation is good. I don't know if it sounds exactly like a real one, but I like what it does for bass guitar. So do a lot of other engineers. So and then my next plugin, IIEQ Pro from DDMF, I am cutting at 40 hertz because it mucks up the mix if you leave in anything around 30 hertz and down. So if I start around like 40 or 50 hertz, by the time it's rolled off, you're not missing any notes. Just getting rid of a bunch of the junk at the bottom. And then I've told you guys before, with bass guitar, and also acoustic guitar, I like using brick wall limiter plugins, and in this case I use LoudMax, which is a free plugin, and it sounds great. It makes the levels even more even. Without changing the tone too much, if at all. So yes, I do use LoudMax a lot with bass guitar. And then finally, SSLE VCC plugin. So here's the most important thing. Okay, we're done all the plugins. Here's the most important thing. Automation. After the mix is sounding great, after the EQing, you get it to where you want it to be. Oh, by the way, no, I didn't use reference 4 on this. Typically I would. I didn't have the measurement done before I mixed this. Using the cello, because the cello has a different converter than the Audien, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, automation. I have both guitar tracks going through this, which allows me to bring their levels up and down simultaneously. I also have some automation on the acoustic guitar track itself. And why is this important? Well, the girls in this song, if you listen to them during the chorus here, they have harmonies, and that means that the vocal level is going to get higher. And even if they didn't have harmonies, which really wouldn't be atypical of a chorus you're going to do overdubs if you just have one singer, but there are 2 singers on this track, and as soon as that happens, Guess what? That means that all of a sudden the acoustic guitar and the bass guitar are buried in the mix. First chorus, I brought it up 1 decibel. Okay? And then once the chorus is over, I brought it back down and then brought it back up a little bit higher for chorus number 2. Actually, that's not accurate. I just put it up to the same level. But for the final chorus, I did bring it up. The crescendo. But these little volume fluctuations add up. I cannot stress how important automation is enough, especially on vocal tracks. As you can see, there are changes. Now, this one's not as bad as some of the other ones, but, if you can't hear a word, a lot of times on a vocal phrase, the last couple or 3 words will start dropping in volume. A lot of times you have to automate that because compression's not going to be enough. And in this case, in Reaper, you can do what's called pre-FX automation pre-FX or volume pre-FX. That's what it's called. So you want to use that one so that it's at the beginning of your chain. You can do volume too, but regardless, just make it so that your vocal is above the other instruments, because to me, the vocal is the most important element. If you can't hear every word, that's a problem. And a lot of times you will have to automate. I know it's annoying, it takes time, but welcome to the wonderful world of audio mixing. So, thanks for watching, guys. I have a ton of other tutorials on the Real Home Recording channel, and if you haven't seen them, definitely check out some of the playlist and go through different subject matter, because there's a lot to learn about audio mixing, audio recording, and I have the information out there for you. You just have to do the work and click and, take notes, whatever else you need to do. But thanks for watching. And if you want to leave a comment, go to part 1. And if you got any questions, then I usually will be happy to answer them within the first 2 to 3 weeks of a video release. So thanks again for watching. See you in the next video.